What's up everybody, this is BigC90210 from TeamSAO.com and the No Blueprints blog. This series of videos is how to make a Terminator/Terminator 2 costume. It covers just about everything you need to know, from how to make a shotgun to how to make a minigun, and then obviously how to make a cool looking Terminator outfit, including makeup and mask and LED eye. Hope you like these videos. Please leave me a like, comment or subscribe. Cheers.
Well, not quite. Basically, we've got the mask, we've got the jacket. Well, not going to use this one, but what we need to do is we need to convert this mask so that it looks realistic. As you can see, it's supposed to be Arnie, but it doesn't quite work due to copyright and lookalikes. However, as you can see around here, we have very good parts of the mask that we can use to our advantage. So what we're going to do now is stop pretending to be Arnie, have a closer look at this mask and see what we can do with it. And as you can see, we have a semi Terminator mask. This is the one obviously I was sporting before. Now the pros about this Terminator mask is that the metal parts look absolutely awesome, but the face as a whole obviously isn't too realistic. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut this battle damaged section out, and we're going to be gluing this to my face all the way around here. Now this mask isn't cheap, by the way. This was 45 euros imported from the Czech Republic. So bear in mind, we're going to be chopping this up for this project. This is something that we only really get one chance of, and if we mess it up then we'll be cattle trucked. Cattle trucked is not good, for anybody who understands cockney slang. So without further ado, I'll be back, and we'll get some scissors and start working out where we're going to cut this. And we've got a rather expensive mask, so like I say, we don't get a second attempt at doing this right. So what we're going to do is cut round the battle scar. We're going to cut it leaving quite a bit of spare room, because obviously we can always, if we make it too big we can cut it smaller, but if we make it too small then we're screwed. So for how much this bad boy cost, let's take our time and be extra careful about where we're cutting. Now, I haven't decided whether to have the headpiece separate from the eyepiece. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep it all as one piece for now, and then if I decide later on that I want it smaller, I can always make it smaller. If I want it in two pieces, I can always cut it into two. But obviously if I cut it into two pieces and then realise that it was one piece would have been better, again, I'll be cattle trucked. So let's just be as cautious as we can for now. This latex is quite thick, so you just got to be careful. Also, I don't know how well latex holds in terms of tearing or anything like that, so I'm trying to be careful not to put too much weight on the edge of the latex in case I end up tearing it. This is harder than it looks, people. Trust me. So now we've went round the head, we're coming back down onto the face. We're now going round with the sideburns outline, chopping that up. We'll bring this little piece of bullet battle damage with us. We might need to cut it off later on, but at least if we bring it, we can decide whether we want it or not later on. Okay, so there goes our €45 mask. It's nothing but a half a heat, and what we are left to work with is our Cyberdyne Systems battle damaged mask. As you can see, this is roughly where it'll sit. Don't know if you can see that on the side of my head there, metal plating and stuff, and we can get a rough idea of how the battle damage and stuff will sit on my face. So now that we know roughly where it's going to go, we need to make this look convincing, and we're going to need to work out what little gizmos and gadgets we can put on this to give it a good effect. So what we'll do is we're going to take it down, we're going to have a look, work out how we can possibly make this look more awesome than it already does, and then we'll be back. And I've decided one of the ways to make it cooler is to fill in this gap here with some sort of lens. Now it's going to mean that I'll technically be blind in one eye wearing this, however it's a bit of a trademark for how cool it'll look. So, how do you make a lens? Good question. Well, I had a think, I had a look round, I looked in my special drawer full of bits and bobs, and I found some table tennis balls. Some people might know them as ping pong balls, table tennis balls. So, we're going to get a table tennis ball, we're going to cut a segment out of it, and we're going to see if we can make a lens for this. So, it's going to be a case of puncture the table tennis ball. Cut a circle out. Obviously it's going to be oversized to begin with, way oversized. But you always want things oversized so you can then make them smaller, rather than making them smaller, making them too small, and then realizing that you've made a mistake. So there is our lens, which is obviously gigantic. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut this down to size and then get it glued onto there. So now that we've got the initial thing, it's just going to be a case of trying to make it as round and domey as possible. That's still a bit too big, but we'll stop. Try it anyway. So there it is. Yes, as you can see, it's still a little bit too big. So cut it down to size a bit more. Try again. Try not to cut the end of my fingers off. Not past the bounds of reality with me. Okay, so we've got a fairly good match there. Might need to be trimmed down another millimetre or so. And we'll have a look and see what we can do from here. The question is will it fit behind? Shall it go behind or shall it go in front? That is the question. Well, I'm going to go and make an executive decision, and when I come back you'll find out what I decided. Well, that's quite good, sticking it in the latex. I decided that this would be best sat on the outside of the eye. It's going to take a little bit more tidying up, but that's the best place for it. Now, moving swiftly on, we're going to get all techno and stuff, and to make this super cool, we've decided that the best thing to do would be to put a light inside the eye, just like in the actual Terminator's eye, like this photo. Now, to do that, we're going to need to mock up a circuit. It doesn't really need to be a complicated circuit, just a few basic components should do the trick. Yes, some I bought earlier. Now, here's the components here for the circuit. We have a CR232 battery holder, which is basically like one of the little flat batteries that are sometimes used in watches or computer motherboards and stuff like that, 1.5 volt. Standard 5mm LED, and a 100 ohm resistor, which I've just dropped. 100 ohm resistor. Now, we could basically solder those together, make a circuit where the light's always on, which is handy, but it would also be handy if we could turn it off. So what we'll do is we'll get ourselves the smallest switch we can find, and we'll find somewhere to put it into the mask. However, as they say in Blue Peter, here is one I made earlier. Now, this is everything just soldered together, all of the components that I showed you before. Here's the LED, here's the resistor, there's a battery inside the battery holder, but this time I've added a switch, and as you can see, when you turn the switch on, it's on. When you turn the switch off, it's off. Now then, we're going to have to work out when we paint this mask, because this mask is going to need to be painted to look super cool and more realistic. How should we have the lens piece? Now, there's a few different ways we can test this, because here's a ping pong ball I chopped up before, and when you turn the light on inside of it, it diffuses the light really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to dim the light, and we're going to compare a couple of ping pong balls, one of which I spray painted black, quite heavy on the top, quite light on the sides, and the other one is just an ordinary ping pong ball. So, turn the lights down, and if we hold this ping pong ball up and light it up, you can see it does diffuse the light. It's actually not as bright as it looks on the camera. It does look slightly more brighter and more pinker as well. I can tell you this is actually more red than it looks on the camera. And we can take that out and we can try it with the black spray painted. Now, as you can see, the black obviously diffuses the light off the LED a lot more, and it gives us more of like a pupil of an eye. So I think with that, those findings, we can come to the conclusion of, put the light back on, that when we make this for real, this lens is going to need to be sprayed black. Quite a light coat of black, but black nonetheless when it goes on here. The inside of this black ping pong ball is actually still white. That it's been sprayed on the outside but not on the inside. So that this obviously, it acts as a diffuser, but also it still lets the light through from the other side. So what we can do now is, I haven't actually got a switch at the minute for these components to make the real thing. So I'm going to go and get a micro switch, and in the meantime we're going to get cracking painting this mask and getting that lens fitted. What we've done this time is we have done a paint test. using some Citadel Bulgum Metal, which is quite a dark silver, and we've done a sample test on Arnie's chin just to see how it looks and to see how it stretches. Now when you stretch this out, I don't know if you can see up close, it goes back together fine, which is perfect. The last thing I wanted to happen was the paint start chipping or flaking away. As you can see, it's quite porous, it's worked really well, and it means I can now go ahead and start painting the mask. So we can now turn our attention to our mask, pull up a seat, get the old paint pot a shake, pop it open, and we can start painting. Now, this looks quite dark, but I assure you I've just painted that straight onto the face and it's actually quite light. So let's give this a paint on a section of the eye. See how it looks. Paint spreads out really well, considering you use such a small amount of paint. It goes a long way away. So I suppose that's another bonus, 'cause it saves you on paint. Fortunately I've got enough paint anyway, but still, it's just an extra bonus. Means you can layer the paint on quite thinly as well. This Bulgum Metal has excellent coverage, so it means I can paint straight over the stock wounds and stuff like that, and then I can paint my own hopefully better quality wounds on later on. So I don't know if you can see or not, but that's looking a hell of a lot more metallic already. I mean, you can see here compared to the standard grey, it's looking a hell of a lot more silver. So I'm going to go and paint all of the silver bits silver, and then we'll come back when it's done and we'll take another look. Actually, before I go, we'll do a little bit on the head so you can see how it goes. At the minute it's quite flat silver, quite flat grey, but with a little bit of Bulgum Metal paint on, should start to come up nice and silver. More so when you turn it towards the light, you'll see it's sparkling, like more of a metallic-y silver than just a flat matte grey. Yeah, it's a good angle to look at. So yeah, I'm going to go and do that, and then we'll come back when it's done, see how it looks. The whole thing has been painted silver, and the eye socket has been glued in place. I've had to use a little bit of glue around the edges of the eye socket, and then when that glue dries I will paint the glue itself. I'll paint like the jelly glue, and that should give it more opaqueness for the diffusion of the light to work better. So there's nothing more we can do for now. As you can see, it's nice and shiny. The eye socket has been installed, and now for a field test of how it looks. As you can see, that's working pretty nicely indeed. In fact, to be honest, I couldn't ask for much more than that. The only thing I need to do now is make this circuit for real. Just going to switch the light back on. Make that circuit for real and try and figure out a way of installing both the circuit and the switch in the right position on the back of the eye. But first I need to get the switch, so in the meantime we're going to start painting some blood and stuff on here. We're going to trim down the edging, all the excess edging which doesn't need to be there will need to be snipped off, and obviously down here as well. And then we'll come back when we've got the switch and we'll start installing the electrics. Okay, so what we've done now is we have filled behind the eye with some polystyrene foam and just big enough for the LED to fit through. And we've poked the LED through so we know that it fits, and then we've just went around the edge with PVA glue, and that's going to give us the perfect mount for the LED for the eye. We've crafted the final circuit and we've attached some polystyrene which will hold the LED in place behind the eye. As you can see, we have the very basic circuit. I decided against a switch. Actually, I broke several switches and I eventually got angry and gave up. However, we've got a perfectly fine circuit here with the LED, the resistor and the battery container. And what it means is the battery container sits behind the cheekbone, and the wires are just nicely out the way. So now to put it to the test, I'm just going to dim the lights. And I'm going to slot the battery into the battery compartment, and as you can see we have light, and that's what it's like on the front. So all is good in the world. Obviously it's going to mean I can't turn it off, but I don't care, it'll be fine. One other thing though, I was just trying this on before, is that obviously when you put this over your eye you end up staring at a red LED for several hours. So the solution to this is we're going to cover this section in black duct tape, which will keep the light out of my eyes, and I can also use it to secure the wiring and hold the battery compartment into the cheek, because the battery is actually behind here. So we're going to go and get some duct tape and we're going to patch all this in, but at least now you can see the inner workings of the Terminator eye. And now we can see that I've covered the back with tape. That might actually look like it's protruding, but it's really not. And we've got the battery compartment sitting here right in the cheekbone, as mentioned before. I've built this up here with several layers of tape, mainly to stop the light from escaping. So when it is time, see what I've done there? All we have to do is slip the battery in, turn her over, and booyah. So now we have the mask. So all we need to do from here is start figuring out how we're gonna do some sexy blood special effects, get this looking pimping, and then we're good to go. And now we're going to be bloodying this up. So what we've got here is some special effects cake and blood, and we've got some Q-tips, and we are going to rub the Q-tip in here, cake it up nicely, and we are going to start painting this with blood. Get a good amount now. Get a good amount on there, caked on, and then we can start spreading it round. As Judgment Day is tomorrow, we're going to need to do a test run. So it is time. If you're thinking fucking hell his t-shirt's on backwards, then it is. We're going to deal with it. Right, so what we're going to do is we are going to install a fresh CR232 battery. Our eye socket now has light. We are going to get some spirit gum of this variety. I've already got one open. So we are going to apply the spirit gum to both my face and the mask. As per the guidelines, we're going to wait until it starts to go gummy, aka tacky, and then we're going to glue it on my face. So with that, I'm now going to start painting the mask. So what we'll do is, I'm going to paint the mask just like this. Just like this, I don't know if you can see or not. I'm just going to simply paint the mask, then I'm going to paint my face, paint my hairline for where this has to go into my hairline, and then we'll come back when it's done and once I've stuck it on my face. Alright.
Alright, and we're back. So, what's happened now is, with the help of Claire and Dave, we have liquid latex, we have spirit gummed the section of mask onto my face and into my hairline. As you can see, it's got quite a nice effect. Everything's good so far. What we're going to do now is, we are going to get some latex milk and we are going to attempt to thicken it and then use that to make the scarring around the rest of the mould, and then from there we can begin to paint it. Just give you a quick close-up of what it looks like. So, what we're going to do is get some liquid latex mixed up. We're going to test it for consistency and thickness, see how goopy it is, and then we'll be back. What we've done so far is we've mixed some latex milk with some talcum powder and just to thicken it up, because now we're going to be working on battle scars and stuff like that. So all we've really done is, here's my hand as an example, I've simply dipped my finger in the liquid latex and I've just stippled it on with my finger like that, just blowing it. Now as this has started to dry, I've stippled it again and kind of bunched it up like PVA. See it kind of coming off there? That wasn't a good example, it's now stuck to my finger. But it kind of stipples up and tears and rips and stuff like that. And then I can dip my finger back into the liquid latex and then put some more down. And then you end up with kind of like scar tissue. Now as an example, here's one I prepared earlier, which is the one that I've just been testing. And then once that's dry, we can start painting it and stuff like that. So we're going to use this technique on the outside of the mask in order to create three-dimensional scarring, which is both flexible, rubbery, and it can be painted. Just for future reference, getting this out of hair is quite painful. So this section here is going to be a treat, but it's worth it. So we'll be back once we've done all this section here, and we'll see what it looks like. So what we have here is an example of the battle damage. This has been liquid latexed, and then the latex has been fluffed up in order to give it some 3D, and then it's been painted over with cake blood, which gives a very nice effect. I'm just going to demonstrate it here using a mirror. So we've got one layer of liquid latex put on, and I'm just going to use the back of a paintbrush to just poke it out a bit. Actually, I think this has dried too much. There we go. And as it's poking it, it's coming out into 3D. And then we can just apply some more with our liquid latex brush. 1 second. Get some stuck on. So, just going to paint it on like that, and then as it starts to dry, just tap it with the paintbrush, and as you can see around here, it's given it the depth of 3D with the scarring of what we need, so that way it can be painted and it will look awesome. It's quite difficult to do in a mirror. Just by stippling it like that, as it dries and turns to plastic, we have 3D scarring. You can see the makeup has been applied. We mixed some of the red cake blood with some of the black in order to darken it down around here. It looks obviously very good, as you can see. Tomorrow is the day where it'll be done finally. So for now, this is the end of the video diary. From here, you will only see photos of the finished article. Enjoy.
Come on, dog. Get to the chopper. Just taking my dog for a walk. Come on, dog. What are you waiting for? Cross the road.